Hi, this is Joe Bolen, and welcome back to visualbasic.net, where we're going to work on our text editor project. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the AboutBox form and how to customize an AboutBox form. So let's take a look, first of all, where documentation is for this series of videos. And they're out at pastebin.com/u/jboh. And you could also see the whole series of videos and others out at YouTube at Bolen Presents. And then the particular main form for this particular text editor project is out at Imager. So if you'd like to pause your video at this time and copy down the links, or come back to it at the end of the session and go out and take a look at pastebin.com/u/jboh. Well, let's go into our program in Visual Studio. I have the Windows Designer up, and we see that we've already coded in an earlier episode the menu tool strip, where we have the help area, and we have the about with the three little dots after it saying that there's basically going to be another dialog or user input required. Also, we have on the tool strip area the question mark, where we're going to do the same thing as we do with the help about area. Okay, let's go into our code and take a look at where we're at. And with the code up, you'll see I have nothing in the regions section, which is just for grouping, for making it easier to make your code easy to find, and to also hide code that will distract us on that, as you see with the other areas that I have. Well, basically we're going to come in here and we're going to code a very simple couple of lines in here. And before we do that, though, we need to have a new form added to our project. So I'm going to go up here on my Solution Explorer, and I'm going to right click and go to Add, and I'm going to choose to go to Add Windows Form. And it's going to bring up the Add New Item area. And one of the forms that is available, at least in the professional version, is the AboutBox. So I'm going to call this the AboutBox form. And this is just a generic form on that you'll see here in the designer. And basically that's all I need to do is bring that in, and then I go back to my main form, and all I need to code here to make it work is to put in AboutBox, get my spelling going here, AboutBox form dot show dialog. And there we go. Okay, let's let it run, and we'll see this particular AboutBox appear and work. Okay, I've got it up here, and I'm going to click on Help About. And there we have a very simple thing in here. We've got the text editor up here at the top, a nice little image, and some basic information on the side. Let's now modify things, make it a little bit better, fill in some of this information to make our AboutBox better. Okay, let me close that out. Let's go now back to the Solution Explorer, and I'm going to go to hit on the little wrench, which is the properties for the project, and you'll see that I have the project application area showing. Right now I'm going to go to the Assembly Information button and click on it, and I'm going to change the information that it defaulted to give it a little bit more friendlier type of information. And I'm going to call this now not the TXT editor, I'm going to call it the text editor. And the description I'm going to give is a simple, plain text editor program with printing ability on that. And I'm going to use my fictitious company, Bolen Computers. Once again, the product I'll change to say text editor. and whoops, better did spell it right. And I'll leave the rest alone, and we'll see that as we build this a couple times, this will automatically change for us. So I'm going to say OK. Now, while I'm at it, I'm also going to take care of another thing that I'd like to do, and I'm going to go over to the resource section of the application. And I'm going to bring in some new resources. And one of them I'm going to bring in is an image out there, and I'm going to go click on that with an add existing file, and I have an image that I have available. And let me go to recent places real quick, and here it is. I'm going to bring in a logo that I have. It's a PNG format. You'll see there are a number of formats we can use. I'm going to bring that in, and then I'm going to bring in also an icon. So I'm going to come up here and change this. Well, I'll bring in one more resource I would like to have for this one. Let me do another add existing resources. Once again, I'm going to go to recent places. I'm going to go to my documentation here where I have one. And I've got a public domain image that I'll bring in as well. And the last one I'm going to bring in is my icon. I have a standard icon I use for my programs that I create. So I'm going to do an add existing. Go to my folder and bring in my icon. Okay, now let's go back to the Solution Explorer and take a look at what I've got. I've got the icon, the Bolen app logo, and a generic logo that I pulled in from the internet that's public domain. Now, one of the things we want to do is highlight the ones here in the resources and change it from do not copy to copy if newer. So it's available once we compile it, and it'll go out to our bin folder. So I'm changing those settings on that. Okay, at this point, I'm going to do a save all and close out of my properties of the project. No, before I do that, I want to do one other thing, application. While I'm at it, and since I brought in the icon, let's change that default icon now to my icon right there. So I'll have my icon available for me as I run it. Okay, now let's go back to our program and let's run it with the changes of adding the assembly information that we just put in so that we'll see this come into that program. So I'll hit start, and now I'll show you the help, and you'll see now that I've got the Word text editor in here that's come in from the assembly information. Also, I brought in the other information from the assembly information and my description, which I can increase and add, and my scroll bars will go down the side as I do that. And also we get a nice generic image here that frankly it's okay for just a generic about box, but I'm going to show you later on how to customize one. So this will do initially for a very simple generic about box. But what if you're using maybe Visual Basic Express and don't have the about box as a form? Well, we have to make one. So let's make a new one at this point. So I'm going to go back to bring to the properties here, and I'm going to create a new Windows form. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to come down and once again choose to add to the project on that. So I'll hit add, and I'm going to add a Windows form, and I'll bring up the Windows form. Now the form is just a generic form, not the about box, and so I'm going to title this one Alt About Box Form on that, because it'll be my alternate one. And now we see in the designer we have our about box form, and now let's do a little changing of that generic form to make it customized for our use on it. So I've called it the alternate ALT about box form on that. I want to have an OK button in there, so and a picture box, and some things. So first of all, I'm going to define this box, and I'm going to go full screen so I can see all the properties a little bit better. And I'm going to slide this over a little bit. And in our AboutBox, I'm going to come up here to the top, and we'll come down and change some of the settings. First of all, we want to get rid of the minimize and maximize buttons for our AboutBox. So I'm going to come down to maximize box, and right now it's true. I'm going to double click on it and change it to false, and I'll also do that for the minimize box, and they've gone away, and you'll see it's gone away on our form. The start is fine. Let me come on down a little further, and we'll keep the size as is for now. The text, just to initially get started, we'll call this About Text Editor. Okay, and we're going to have the windows start up, not normal, but we're going to choose to go to, I'm sorry, not that one. Windows start position up here, we're going to change that to have it in center parent. Okay, we've got that set. Now let's add to it a couple labels on that. So I'm going to bring my toolbox into play on that. And I'm going to close out some of these extra ones, go to the common controls. I'm going to pin this so I can quickly see it. I'll make it a little larger for you at this point. And what I'm going to do is put on here a button that I'm going to have down here. And right now I'll just sort of release it and get it centered real quickly. And this will be my OK button. And the OK button, we'll call it OK button. So I'll change this to OK button for the name. And we're going to have the anchor property set down to the not top left, but we're going to make it over here to the left and bottom. So I changed the anchor position. Let me scroll down a little bit more. And we want to have the dialog result for this one as a cancel, because when we end up, we're canceling out. The location we'll leave alone at this point. It's fine as is. And the text for this one, I come on down. Instead of button, we're going to change this with the amber sign and then have OK. There we go. So we've got OK for our button. Now we're going to bring in a picture box. And I'm going to slide over here and grab the picture box. And the picture box, I think I'll set up right about here for now. And I'm going to square it out a little bit, more like right about there. And the picture box, we'll just leave it as picture box. We're going to anchor it. In this case, instead of top left, we'll anchor it now to the other side of the form, to our left and to our bottom. And we're going to bring in an image here in a second. And I'm going to, in this case, go up to the Smart GIF, make it easy to do. Choose image. Remember, we brought into resources our image. So I'm going to pick from my resource file our generic public domain image. Say OK. And then the size mode for this one, I'm going to make zoom, which will keep the aspect ratio fine. And we've got our image in place. Now let's bring in some labels that we're going to work with. First label will be our title area. So I'm going to place it right about there. And I'm going to change this to say the name of the label on this one is going to be called App Title Label. Okay. And my app title label was going to be anchored, in this case, to the top, left, and right. And I'm going to change the font for this. Instead of the default font that comes in from the form, I'm going to change this now to Seago UI. So I'll come down to Seago UI. I'm going to change it to 15 points. Actually, I'll change it to 16, which I think is that. And I'm going to say OK to that. Then I'm going to change the color of that one, the 4 color. And I'm hit the drop down the 4 color. I'm going to hit web colors. And I'm going to choose for this one the royal blue. As I scroll down, probably out of your screen, there's royal blue selected. We see our label. And I'm going to initially call this text editor so I can use it as a placeholder. So I'm coming down to the text property. And I'm going to call it text editor. So we can see it. And then I want the alignment for this one to be middle center. And then I'm also going to change the auto size on this. I'm going to come back up, auto size to false. And then I'm going to drag this across, make it a part of my whole screen. I've got it set that way for the text editor. Now I'm going to also bring in another label. In fact, I'll just highlight this one and do a Control V to copy. Then I'm going to do a Control C to copy, and then a Control V to paste. Bring in another one. And I'm going to use this about the same location, same properties. This time, though, I'm going to call this particular one, instead of just label, we'll call it the app version label. Okay, and once again, I'll use top, left, right for the anchor. We'll use Seago UI for our font. I'm going to change it to make it a little smaller than the other one. I'm going to change it down to a 12-point font. There we go. I'll keep the royal blue. And for the text area, since we're just starting out, real quickly, as a placeholder, I'm going to call this version 1.0. Okay, and that gets that set. And we now have our text box set. Now let's code in our text box so it has some information other than being hard-coded. This is a great way to start out, but we want to be a little bit more professional. So I'm going to click on the form, and I'm going to double-click, and that'll create the load event for this form. And let me go back now into a larger size so you can see it. And what we're going to do for this one is we're going to, in the load event, bring in some code to take care of initializing and having those labels have value. So the application title label we're going to put in here. So I'm going to space down here and go app title label.text is going to be equal to the my, get the M here, my application info title. That takes care of that. And then I'm going to do the version app version label text. And here I'll once again bring in the my application info version, whoops, not title, version. and I need to do a toString here. And what I'm going to add here in front of that is a hard code of version dash, and then concatenate that information. Okay, and then the actual form itself, the caption of the form, me.text, I'm going to make it equal to the about. Let me put in the about, and I'll put an extra space there, and then I'm going to concatenate it with my application info title on that. So this takes care of getting our form to look a little bit better. Also, we want to code for the button. When we click it, I can go quickly back to the form that I'm working with, get the right one. I'm going to double click this one and create the event handler for the OK button. And this one is a very simple one. This is just simply me close. There we go. Okay, we've got that in place. There's our code. We're initializing the labels that we have on our custom form on that the caption area, and we set the form to close when we hit the OK button. Let's go back now to our main form and code that one in place. And once again, I'll just add this one to it. Alt about form, show dialog. Okay, and we'll let this one run. And we'll click on and see, first of all, our generic one, which is nice, looks good, but we can see our customized one. Of course, we can customize that, and you'll see that the text editor came in, and the specific version I was working with came from the assembly information, and my icon came in, or I should say my picture, into my picture box came in, and I used the zoom so that this image would keep its aspect ratio fine. Also, I changed this part up here so it would dynamically change. Now, the nice thing about doing a custom form is it can become generic for all your projects on that. So let me show you mine, and I'll do it real quickly for you so you can see how mine looks like. Okay, let me code that out. Let's go back to the project, and I'm going to add a new form. I'm going to go Windows Form, and this time I am going to use the About box, but I'm going to change its name to Bolen About Box form. Because I'm going to customize this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave everything over here pretty much the same, but I'm going to change the image. So I'm going to come up here to the Smart GIF, choose an image. I'm going to go to my resource area. I'm going to bring in my app logo. And now I'm going to modify this a little bit. So I'm going to come back here and change the size mode to zoom. And then I'm going to change a little bit more information on this one. I'm going to come back over to my properties area here where it has the dock property. And as soon as I get to it, let's see here. Dock right now is fill. I'm going to change that to top. Make certain I've got it right here. Dock top. And I'm going to change the size of the actual picture box to the size of 124 by 124. There. Okay, and I'm going to come over here to the product name, and I'm going to make that a little bit more exciting. So I'm going to go over to the font. I'm going to change its size and the color. So I want to make this bold this time. And I think I'll go just a little bit bigger. Let's go 12 point. That looks pretty good. And let me also change the color to navy, since my logo has navy in it. So I'll change the color to navy. Scroll down to navy. There's navy. And now I'm going to just not worry about this because this will be changed automatically as we run it. And the other things will come in place. So I'm going to hit a save all. Come back over to my main form. Now let's code in the Bolen form. Okay. And let's now run this one. And you'll see now I have a customized one. Here's our generic one. Here's our customized one that we made. And here's my modified generic one with my logo in there. I've made the product name or the title of the project a lot darker in using navy and changing the font size. And everything is the same. And of course you'll see the information at the top changed as well. So this one will be the one that I'll use when I release mine. But remember, you can customize your own AboutBox form on that and make it very interesting. So go out to your Windows form, add in the custom form or that you'd like to make, or just grab the generic AboutBox if you have a different level of Visual Studio that might have that as a template. And then modify it to your own needs and uses on that. Remember, we took advantage of the assembly area to give information to the AboutBox so that as we change any kind of text or name, automatically our AboutBox will reflect those changes in it. We don't want to hard code things into our form because we want to be able to use it in other projects. We also want it to change automatically, not have to go out and change it. The other thing is we brought in our resources. In this case, we brought in the icon and changed that information. We also brought in two different images. One was a public domain one that I used for our alternate AboutBox, and the other one was my specialized Bolen app logo that I brought in for when I created my Bolen AboutBox form. So you can create your own AboutBox. It adds a little bit more professional quality to your program to have an AboutBox in your program, and it also informs the user of the particular version that you're working with. And as we release new versions, that might be important for a user to know, hey, I need to go update my program and make it to the top level quality that's out there available for me. So take advantage of writing an AboutBox. It's very simple to show an AboutBox. We use the simple form name and then the show dialog for the AboutBox, and it makes a program much more exciting and rich. So get your hands dirty in the code. Get out there to pastebin.com and take a look at the information I have about the AboutBox. And until next time, take care.